Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. This, however, is not a regular episode. A regular episode, we watch a movie, we talk about a movie, it's really quite simple. However, this is part 2 of a countdown. What is a countdown? It is a top list of favourite films. Or at least usually. We might do actors or something like that at some point in the future, or directors, but at least so far they've all been movies. And this is our top 50 movies of the 1980s. This is part 2. We already did part 1, which was numbers 50 through 26. There's going to be numbers 25 through number 1. So, the biggies. And if you didn't see the last part, you go back and watch it, but this works quite simply. Corey gives one of his picks, I give one of my picks, we alternate, we go forward from there. It's really quite simple. There we go.
Yeah.
That was as succinct as an introduction as I think I could have mustered.
Oh, pretty much. It only took, 40 seconds or so.
Is that a compliment or a complaint?
A bit both.
Number 25, Connor, you're up first. What is it?
Oh, I suppose I am. It is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, a little glance there. This one's it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Not to spoil too much, but it's not as good as the first one. So that may or may not show up at some point later on.
I've only seen this one once. I'll have to rewatch it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How come?
I've only seen the only one that I've seen more than once is the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that surprises me.
I only watched them for the first time when I was in my late teens.
Oh, that actually really surprises me.
I'd never seen them as a kid. I bought the DVD box set to see them when I was. But this is before the fourth one. This was like just maybe a couple of years before that.
I've only seen the fourth one once because it's the fourth one.
I also saw that once too. I saw that in theaters.
Yeah, me too.
I think I actually own that now though, because the Blu-ray box set has the fourth one on it. Well, it's not,
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Isn't there a box set with just the three of them?
Not on Blu-ray, I don't think.
I don't know. No, I thought there was.
No.
Fair enough.
But hey, there you go. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. I would if you ask me, this is my least favorite of the three. But like I say, I've not watched it in a long time.
I prefer it over the third one.
Fair enough. I'd have to go back and see them again, not to really.
Yeah, fair enough.
Give you a great opinion on them. My number 25 is a little film called Twins, which is Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. There have been genetically engineered twins, and comedy ensues. This is the first in the Arnie comedy trilogy with Ivan Reitman. The other two being Kindergarten Cop and Junior, both of which came later in the 90s. And it's the best of the three, I think. I mean, I really like Kindergarten Cop as well, but this one is really good. It's kind of sweet. It's got humor. Great cast, top to bottom.
Yeah, fair enough. I've not seen this one.
I still think this doesn't have a Blu-ray yet. I don't think still.
Really?
Which is a shame. Yeah, there's just a few stragglers, a few stragglers that haven't quite made it to HD.
There are things that I go, oh, that hasn't got a Blu-ray. Okay, I get it. But then there's some stuff where it's like, no, there's notable people in this. It's notable directors. I'm like, why has this not got a Blu-ray?
Yeah, it's weird. At least I don't think it does. Maybe there has been one recently, and I've just not noticed it. But
you're not in the loop anymore.
I'm not as in the loop as I was a couple of years ago with the Blu-rays. But
yeah,
still. So yeah, Twins, and I grew up watching this. This was a childhood favorite as well. Although it's actually a little bit darker as a comedy. So
oh really?
I mean, it's not a dark comedy, but it's just there's menace. There's an intimidating villain. There's murder. There's things going on.
Oh, fair enough.
So here's what it is. What's your 24?
My 24 is it's another 2. This is Superman 2.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. I really like Superman 2. It's not as good as the first one again, but it's got some really fun elements to it. It doesn't have the ending's probably a bit better in that it
sure
doesn't just feel stupid.
Outside of the amnesia.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of the solution.
Yeah. In terms of fighting, Zod and his cronies, yeah.
It's got a satisfying ending.
Again, outside of like one really stupid thing with like a giant shield that he throws at him out of nowhere.
Sure.
There's a couple of weird oddity moments like that, but yeah.
There is, but I mean, Zod's pretty damn good. He's got a great presence. it's nice having such a strong villain in a movie like this.
Yeah, no, Terrence Stamp's
and then
great.
all the stuff with Lois is fantastic.
It is except the amnesia drink.
Oh yeah, except obviously, but we'd already mentioned that.
Yes, yeah, I really want to emphasize it though, because it is definitely the biggest problem I have with that movie is the amnesia drink.
It is,
but I do like it a lot.
The only real problem I have with that movie.
Yeah, I like it a lot though. We were going to the planet Houston. I'm shutting the door.
Okay, Cad's being a menace again as usual. God, every video lately.
The problem is that you have to open the door and they refuse to come in while you're over there at the door. You have to come back to your starting position, wait for them to come in, and then go back over to shut the door.
You should train them to show behind them.
I'll be honest, I think Wesker here could pull it off. You're the smartest of the three. You're the brains of the operation.
Yeah. It's favoritism.
Is a good push. Yes. Is a good push. Yes. All right.
Do you want to do your 24?
Oh, it's my 24, yes. My number 24 is one you mentioned in the first half. It is Hellraiser.
Okay.
Hellraiser is a very unique horror film. It has I don't think we mentioned the score actually in the last one. It's got a fantastic kind of almost apocalyptic sounding score, which is a really interesting kind of like add-on to what's going on in the film, where it's not actually like the world that is at stake in any way. It's a completely personal story. It's this dark exploration of S&M and pain for pleasure and all these things, and it's great. It's devious characters doing devious things with some fantastically memorable concepts. It's great. Some great practical effects as well. Rewatching it last year with Tim for streams, I really was like, oh man, these practical effects of like him forming his body again and all that stuff, it all looks really good.
It's amazing how some practical effects just hold up, isn't it?
It does, yeah. They look just as good today as they did back in '87. So
yeah, who'd have thought?
No, fantastic. Hellraiser's great. It's like I say, I can't emphasize enough how unique this is. It doesn't feel like just another movie that's a copy of other horror movies at the time. This felt genuinely unique amongst
it is unique,
time
definitely.
period.
Like I said, I had it very low on my list in the first couple, I think. But its uniqueness sometimes works against it, in that it's so unconventional that maybe it's like, okay, there are things that it could be doing that maybe I'd enjoy more, that are a bit more traditional at times.
Sure. I don't know if I agree with that, but sure.
No, fair enough.
Yeah. It is the best film about a creepy uncle who came back from the dead who wants to have sex with his niece.
I mean, how many of those are there, though?
You'd be surprised.
No, I wouldn't. That's the sad thing.
What's your number 23?
My number 23. You may have mentioned this. I'm kind of forgetting. It's Dress to Kill.
Okay.
Did you mention this?
I did not. No.
No, you didn't. Okay. Because obviously you mentioned at least one De Palma film, maybe two. I don't know. Two.
Blowout and Body Double I mentioned.
Yeah. So here's the third one. We covered this on Influx, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, there's a full review there. This again, like we were saying with the other De Palma films that we talked about there, suspense is fantastic. The direction is the standout feature of this movie, undoubtedly. Some great music as well though in this one. I really like the opening stuff with the all the setup is really intriguing for me in this one, because it plays it so straight compared to some of the other movies, which is immediately kind of into the thick of it. This one builds a little bit more for me.
It's got a structure not unlike Psycho, where the first 30 to 40 minutes is one story, and then the rest of the film spins out of that story, but it's not following the same characters necessarily that the first 40 minutes did.
Yeah, but that open bit it's so straight compared to where it goes. It feels very linear and easy to follow, and not that the rest of it's complex and is twisty turny all over the place. But it is very unique in its structure compared to his other films, at least the ones that I've seen.
My number 23 is one that you brought up last time again, and this is The Road Warrior, Mad Max 2.
Yeah. I mean, I had it quite high at the end of the last video, so I mean, it wasn't too long ago.
I wasn't critiquing where you placed it.
No, I'm just saying, it's we get these every so often where we get quite close in placement. This isn't as close as we've had in the past, but
yeah. I mean, obviously we spoke about it last time, but Road Warrior is kind of the movie that defined what post-apocalyptic wasteland is.
Yeah, definitely.
Bunch of knockoffs came out after this. The Fallout games have a lot to be thankful for. Mad Max, obviously Fallout's a bit more radioactive than a desert, but it's still, it feels so similar. The idea of raiders, the idea of what the small communities that form in the wasteland are, that came from Mad Max 2. Not even Mad Max 1, specifically Mad Max 2. Yeah. So it's great. I love how it all revolves around this community that they'll worship an oil tanker because fuel's so hard to come by. And like we talked about in the first half, the idea of like there's like one bullet in the shotgun, and the movie plays with that there's only one bullet the entire time.
Repeatedly, yeah.
It's so good. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
And actually has good payoff with that as well.
It does, yeah. What's your 22?
My 22 is Thief. Oh look, another one we covered on Influx. Yeah, a little bit of a pattern here. This is stylish as shit. All the way through, this is stylish. This is safecrack. Yeah, you got that plot going on, but who cares what's going on? Just the way it looks and sounds is everything about this movie.
Yeah, breaking into a multi-billion-dollar safe. Who can? James can.
As soon as you started that, I was like, oh god, he's gonna do it.
That was gold. James Caan's leading this. He's a very good actor.
I like how you felt like, oh yeah, I should probably explain that just in case anyone doesn't know, and that just sounded really stupid.
Not everyone knows who James Caan is.
No, they don't. But you just had to explain just because you couldn't bear the idea that shitty joke went unnoticed by someone.
You include the audience and make sure everything's easy to follow. That is good presentation skills.
It is if it's a good joke.
It was a good joke.
It was not a good joke.
You're just in denial.
No, I'm not. This has fantastic music, though, this movie.
Yeah, it does. It has very good music.
Yeah, love it.
Cool, my number 22. Something very different. And this is one I grew up with. And we're back to a certain Austrian brute, and this is Predator. This is a movie that you weren't too keen on, but this is a slasher movie before I get into horror movies, but it's a slasher movie with an elite team of commandos who try their damnedest to fight back. And it all comes boiling down to this mano-a-mano fight between Arnold and the Predator. It is a very well shot and edited movie, because I like Predator 2 a lot, but the one thing that Predator 1 has over Predator 2 by a mile is the direction, and it's there. It's evident. It's like a symphony. The way this movie's shot. You could analyze the shooting and editing in this movie. It's so good. It's got all these great set pieces, and I love that it does that good job of like showing you them as a team. Just take on some bad guys at the start, so you're like, okay, this is how good they are. This is how their expertise in motion and in action, and then it's like. And now we're going to deconstruct that over the course of the movie. We're going to deconstruct that with a villain that they can't deal with. And just everything it does. Cool design of the Predator, cool music from Alan Silvestri. Silvestri, rather, say it properly. But yeah, no, Predator, good. I don't think I have to convince many people of that. So
No. Many people would be wrong, but, whatever.
Shut up. What's your 21?
My 21 is, Tron. Have you seen Tron?
Mm-hmm.
You have? Okay. Is it Legacy you've not seen?
I've not seen Legacy, yeah.
Okay. I knew there was one of them you hadn't seen. So I actually saw Tron Legacy first, and then, I saw that when it came out, and then a few years later I went, you know what? I'm going to go check out the original. And it's kind of fantastic. I love it. I think you're not as keen on this, are you?
No, I thought it was really boring.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. This is a visual feast in terms of what it's doing with those with its very early CG, but it's it's the style of what it's doing with it is kind of fantastic. It's got these limitations,
Yeah,
but it works for the movie.
If I remember correctly, not everything you think is CG in that movie actually is. But there is CG in there.
Oh yeah,
but there's a lot of stuff that you assume is CG, I think, because of your present day thinking, that's actually in camera trickery.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah.
But there is some stuff that was CG in, but the looks, you can tell then it looks a bit rougher, but works for that movie in its style.
Like visually, I agree, it's interesting. I just thought the writing and the plot was just.
Fair enough.
I was falling asleep during that movie.
I thought the plot is a kind of standard, hero beats the villain or sort of thing. Captured, fight back, escape, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was enjoyable enough. And then when you've got those visuals and a fantastic score going along with it, it always had my attention. I was always into it. There was no point where I was bored.
Maybe rewatching it, because it's been over 10 years since I tried it. Maybe I'd like it more. I don't know, but
I think we should do that and Legacy at some point.
I'm not committing to both.
Oh, come on. I might prefer Legacy.
Oh, okay.
Legacy has the Daft Punk score, which hell yes.
Mm-hmm. My number 21 is very different. This is not one I grew up with. This is The Elephant Man. This is a David Lynch film. Although it's probably the most straightforward and conventional David Lynch film that he's ever made. And it's just the story of this man who's deformed, and his life, and people try to be kind to him. It uses some great music. I say uses because it's not score necessarily. It's like classical music that it uses in places. And it's black and white. And it's a touching story, and like this is probably the most touching I've ever found David Lynch. Like the ending of this movie is this kind of bittersweet thing that is so touching that I'm like, I double checked after watching it. Was that David Lynch? Because it didn't feel anything like David Lynch.
I've not seen this, but touching is not a word I would ever associate with Lynch traditionally.
It is genuinely a touching film.
I'm sure. Everything I've heard about it, I'm sure it is. It's so almost out of character for Lynch.
Yeah, you got Anthony Hopkins in there, of course. It's a really well done drama, essentially. But it's one we'll have to do at some point. I mean, I think all David Lynch is kind of on the cards at some point. But,
you would say that.
Yeah, well,
you Lynch fanboy.
Fanboy?
You are a bit of a fanboy.
I don't like Wild at Heart.
You got one.
Oh, a little heart. I do want to rewatch Eraserhead though at some point.
See what I mean?
I liked it. I did like it when I saw it, but I feel like I'd love it now if I watched it again. Anyway, what's your number 20?
My number 20 is Heathers, which is a fantastic high school movie about awful, awful people. And what's not to love about this? Winona Ryder and Christian Slater, let's kill the awful people. And they're both awful as well.
Yeah.
So how would this not appeal to me?
This appeals to me, but when I tried watching it, I felt like it lost steam for me after the first 30 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I didn't like where it went plot-wise.
Oh, really? Okay. I mean, it definitely goes places.
Yeah, it goes places. When it was just about these two teaming up to kill the popular girls, I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And then it kind of veers and does other things.
Yeah, it does. I was so into all the other stuff. I think the dialogue in particular in this movie is phenomenal. It's so witty and on point, and all the characters feel appropriately awful and smart when they're supposed to. No, I have a blast with this movie whenever I watch it.
Well, my number 20 is you were telling me that I was a David Lynch fanboy, but just bear with me here, because John Carpenter's up next with Prince of Darkness, which is, I felt, probably the last film of his that I've seen. In terms of, I mean, there's a couple that I've not seen, but in terms of all the movies of his that I've seen, this was the most recent one I saw for the first time.
Okay.
Which was probably like 7 or 8 years ago now. I mean, it's been a while, but I've seen it a few times. Prince of Darkness is such a different movie from Carpenter, but it's got, you know, one of his scores. It's very signature. It's got all these things, but this one's more about the impending dread, the the apocalyptic like promise of the future, right? Is sort of driving the plot. But it's a bottle movie set in a church, but it's like these scientists trying to deal with the weird like like chamber of like energy that's in the church. And you know, Prince of Darkness obviously implies that this is like the Antichrist or something like that, but it's basically this idea that like at one point in the movie you get this idea that someone's like they're having dreams of the future, and that there's going to be someone who shows up that's like so devastating that the entire world is screwed. So it's got this almost Lovecraftian like Cthulhu impending doom kind of feeling to it, and I really like that.
Fair enough.
So
just I know that's not what this film's about, but the Prince of Darkness, that as a title, you know, you said, oh, you know, it conjures these images. For me, I've always thought of that as a title for Dracula, like, you know, like something that I don't know if he's ever gone by that, if anyone's ever called it, like,
I don't know.
I don't know if he has, but for some reason, Prince of Darkness, that conjures Dracula to me.
I don't know what to tell you.
No, I know. I'm not, it's so specific, and I don't know if I have a reason for it or not. Like, I don't know if I've picked that up from somewhere, or if it's just some association I've made at some point. But I mean, judging that you have no idea, more likely the latter.
Is it because there's a Hammer film called Dracula, Prince of Darkness?
Maybe that's it.
It's that simple. There was one movie with that title, and that's just
it could be just that, and that's just stuck with me for, you know, years.
I'm sure that's what that movie's called. Hold on.
It probably is. He's going and checking. He could Google this. We have the internet right here. I could just type Dracula Prince of Darkness. Look, there we go. Dracula Prince of Darkness. I've already got it.
What were you saying?
I was saying, could have just Googled this. I Googled it in the time that it's taken you and confirmed this already. But no, he had to be a dick and show off that he's got it. He had to go to the shelf. Just because it's immaculately organised and he knew exactly where it would be, doesn't mean he had to do this.
Immaculately organised? It's called the alphabet, you ginger cretin.
It's in sections as well, though.
Well, yeah, that's the horror section. But sure, like, what did you want from me?
I wanted you to just Google it. I put Dracula PR, and then it popped up with Prince of Darkness, and it was like, yep, guess that's a movie.
I'm going to use this useless DVD disc to throw at your head, hopefully decapitate you.
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie. I have done that in the past.
Well, because the DVD's useless, you don't want the Blu-ray, so...
I've thrown it at someone.
Just,
I thought, I don't care if this doesn't play ever again.
Yeah, the DVD copy I don't care about. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So where are we? What number are we on? It's you next, right? 19. You're 19.
19. Oh, okay. So here is one I grew up with.
Prince of Darkness.
Do you know the worst place? I've never even seen it. I've never even seen that one. It's just whatever. No, one I grew up on is The Fox and the Hound. This is a Disney movie. This was when I was younger. This was my favorite Disney movie, quite comfortably. It's not anymore. You know, Taste of Cheese. Although it's a very unusual one for people to find as their favorite because it is bleak as shit. So. I mean, I guess I've always just been a cynical bastard. It's basically, you know, there's a fox, you know, like a baby fox, and you know, and a dog.
The titular fox and the titular hound.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it starts when they're both, you know, young pups.
Mm-hmm.
What is a fox pup called? I don't know. Whatever. Cub. Fox cub. That's it. I think. You know, and they form this friendship, and then they get older, and then it's like, and they're told, well, hang on, we can't be friends anymore because society demands it, essentially, because we're supposed to be enemies. And it's about these two kind of trying to have some level of friendship, even though they're not supposed to. But it's kind of really in a bleak kind of sure. By the end, it's like yeah, okay, we can, but it's really roundabout way of getting to it, and it's always just they're being trodden all over and being like, nope, you can't do this. It's really good, and the action finale stuff with out on with the fire is gorgeous. The animation's spectacular. It remains some of my favorite animation. It is a movie.
So this movie you've not seen, that you've somehow stuck such a implant in your memory. There's just see if this triggers anything. 4 English tourists find themselves stranded in the mysterious village of Carlsbad, a sinister and remote place of deadly dark legend. Their journey leads them to an abandoned castle where a nightmarish destiny awaits them. However, it wasn't just fate that brought them here, but an evil force in need of resurrection. A blood-craving beast known only as Count Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Released in 1966, this is Christopher Lee's second outing as Dracula, with Hammer pushing the cinematic boundaries of graphic gore and terror.
I think we need to watch it soon.
This is a Screams After Midnight movie.
Tim can take a week off. Tim will be grateful.
You need to dye your hair like dirty blonde, though, so you look at Tim.
Can I just buy a wig?
What's funny though is you actually have very similar hair when I think about it. When I think about just the shape of it.
The shape, style.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Maybe not always, but when he's got it grown out a little bit.
Fair enough.
It's kind of similar-ish. Yours is a bit more curly, I think, though.
Yeah.
Aye.
Is there a reason you're just reading the back of the...
I was reading the extras. I mean, I was just curious.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of this Fox and the Hound movie, but only because you told me before you liked it.
Yeah. It's one that I don't really see a lot of love for. Maybe this is, there's not that much love for it in general, but I don't know. It was easily my favorite. It was easily the one I watched the most when I was younger, and I think it's kind of good. It's real good, and I'd like to see more people's opinion on this one.
I don't have one. Not seen it.
Well, someone's seen it. I just need to know if I'm in the wrong in thinking it's this good, or if I'm just a weird bastard.
Yes. Shut up. My number 19 is Manhunter, which is Michael Mann. You just talked about Thief a couple of episodes ago. Michael Mann, after that, directed Manhunter, which is actually the first movie with Hannibal Lecter in it. It is an adaptation of sorts of Red Dragon, which of course they did a Red Dragon movie later. But this has got Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter, but it's Michael Mann in the 80s. It is super stylish. You mentioned Thief was stylish. This is also stylish. This is like turned up. This is like Miami Vice like levels of stylish that he turns it up to. And okay. I don't mean the Miami Vice movie that he did like in the 2000s. I mean the show. It feels, it's full of synth. It's full of, it plays with, Will Graham, like the detective who like fills the room and does his thing. I love Manhunter. Manhunter was one of those things where I hadn't seen, because everyone talks about Silence of the Lambs, right? Everyone talks about the later movies. When I went back and found this, because I discovered I liked Michael Mann through Collateral and a couple other movies, it was like, whoa, this is really good. Why does no one talk about this? So,
I've never seen it, although you're not the only one who has this opinion. Like, this is the best of them.
It's not the best Hannibal Lecter movie in the sense that Hannibal Lecter's not a big part of it. Like Silence of the Lambs is the better Hannibal Lecter movie, but
it's the best. A lot of people would say it's the best based on that franchise.
Yes. Right.
And that's not a crazy unpopular opinion. It's just it always seems to get overlooked. Like, people just don't bother watching it.
Yeah, the mainstream media or whatever, if you want to call them that, never seem to mention it. It's just film there to like it.
It is, yeah. But it is pretty universally agreed upon that it's very good from the people who bother watching it.
It's obviously an influx in the making at some point.
It is, yeah.
But
because I've definitely got it on my list to watch at some point.
I've got that in Blu-ray too.
Of course you do.
It's up there somewhere.
Yeah, all right. Don't go and get it.
The thriller sections will be up top shelf though, so I don't know. I feel like I'm stretching.
Do it, and then if it goes wrong, we can see everything fall on you.
I think I'm more concerned about flashing my belly at the camera because I'm stretching up so far. It's a glorious hairy belly, don't get me wrong, but It's not for. This is suitable for your 8-year-olds and up. I think this.
Yeah,
stream,
I
this
think
video.
that can be saved for the late night live streams.
Yes. Where things get saucy.
Yes.
Your number 18.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned there how that was a director of one I mentioned not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a similar situation here because my 18 is Die Hard. Obviously, you mentioned Predator not so long ago.
Oh yes. John McTiernan.
Yeah, you looked confused for a second then as to what the link was. Yeah, I mean it's Die Hard, right? Do I need to really say that much about Die Hard? It spawned It's This but Die Hard for still going. We had a trailer on Trailer Talk a week ago.
You said that the wrong way around though. You don't say it's this but Die Hard. You say it's Die Hard but this.
Whatever.
You say it's Die Hard but on a boat, or it's Die Hard but on a plane. It's Die Hard but on a
Sure, but my point is, that's still going to this day. Where we had a trailer on the last episode of Trailer Talk where, it's another one, and that's a pretty enduring legacy.
Yeah, no, Die Hard's fantastic. I can't fault Die Hard as a pick. Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him to Nakatomi Plaza to meet with Holly. Those are the first lyrics of the Die Hard song by Guys Night. Go and Google it. It's on YouTube.
I was mildly worried you were going to
do the whole thing. No. But it's a surprisingly decent little song about Die Hard.
The Die Hard song.
Yeah, they made it long before 5 though, so there's nothing about 5 in it, which is good because 5 sucks. It's garbage. Anyway, moving on. My number 18, completely different. This is a childhood favourite. Absolutely, this is The Goonies. Which you did mention Superman 2, which was obviously mostly directed by Richard Donner before Lasseter came in and changed half of it. Not Lasseter. Who was Richard something? It was Richard Lester, maybe.
That sounds about right.
Maybe it was Lasseter. I'm doubting myself because obviously Lasseter was
Lasseter's the Pixar guy. Yeah.
Which is why I'm doubting that that's right.
Let's have a look. Superman 2.
It was another Richard though. I'm sure it was.
I mean, it probably was.
Fire one dick and hire another. What?
It was Lester. Richard Lester.
There you go. That was a second guess. I'll take it. So this is Richard Donner, of course. He did this. After he got over the pain of having to leave Superman 2, before it could be finished, and was never offered obviously Superman 3 or anything like that. He's still at Warner Brothers surprisingly, but he did The Goonies, and this is kind of everything you want in a childhood adventure. Like, it has that feeling at the start of the movie where it's like, it's the rainy afternoon where all the kids have to stay at home, and you've got this cast of kids. Obviously, Sean Astin grew up to be someone. You've got Josh Brolin in there as the older brother. You've got Corey Feldman. You've got all these characters, these actors, and it's a treasure hunt. It is a movie about a kid's imagination going wild and actually leading to a real adventure in dealing with villains. Joey Pants is one of the villains who's great. And it's actually got a great Superman reference in it, bizarrely. I remember watching this for the first time after years having not seen it, and I'd forgotten about the Superman moment, and it really made me smile because it's Richard Donner. Like, yeah. I assume when I was a kid I didn't know it was the same guy who made them.
Probably not. You typically don't pay attention to that as a kid.
I probably didn't even know what a director was when I was a kid. That's it's like, never mind. Who do I like?
assume you did, you pretentious dick.
But it's delightful, full of memorable moments, full of quotable moments. Really fun score as well. You even got the Cyndi Lauper song, the blares at one point. This is a bundle of joy. It's well made and it's full of nothing but raw nostalgia. It is glorious. That is The Goonies. What is your number 17?
My number 17. You mentioned they're having a good score. Well, this is up there with the best of them. Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay.
Yeah. See, you had a face there like you wanted to fight whatever I said, just because, but you can't because I'm right. I love that. I think on the Blu-ray there's an option just to play this without any dialogue, just to have the score play over it.
Yeah, it's got a nice isolated score.
Yeah, but not all of them have that. Not everything has that as a choice.
Oh, sure, but there's enough that have it that it's still a feature that's got a name. It's like
it is. Yeah. But it's great. It's Trucker fights supernatural forces. it's all over the place in terms of doing crazy, wacky things.
Yeah, but the thing in the movie, though, is that he thinks he's the main character, but he's not. He's the sidekick who's useless, and someone else is the main character.
Yeah.
Yeah, this won't be appearing on my list, purely because I've only seen it once, and it was a long time ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have to give it another try at some point. Not because I liked it. It wasn't that I disliked it. I've not seen it enough that I can... if I tried to tell you why I like this, I wouldn't be able to really do it.
No, that's fair.
So
no, I really love the score because when I watched this for the first time, I immediately put it on again with the isolated score, like straight after. It was that good.
And given what I just said, somehow I still own it twice on Blu-ray, but that's a whole...
Why do you own it twice?
Because I got the original US release when it first came out, and then Arrow did a nice special edition. And Arrow were doing like a sale where it was like, you can get 2 and get the third one free. And I thought, you know what? I'll get the Arrow version for free.
Yeah, it's the Arrow version I've got. It's a nice edition.
It's a nice edition. So yeah, what number are we on? 17?
That was 17.
My number 17 is First Blood, which is AKA the first Rambo movie, just for anyone who doesn't know that.
Because it had a stupid naming system.
I've been over this a million times, but just to clarify one more time, First Blood, then the second movie is Rambo, First Blood Part 2, and then the third movie is called Rambo 3, and then the fourth movie is just called Rambo. If that's not the most confusing naming system in the history of humankind, I don't know what is.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. So, now, First Blood is a great movie. It is a movie about someone with PTSD who's came back from Vietnam. It's about how screwed up he is and how he's also mistreated by those around him. It's about coming back from the war and not being treated as a hero, but being treated as a criminal because of what you were involved in. And how that affects him and how that has a knock-on effect. And it's a movie where only like one person, I think, gets killed. It's not like like Rambo, who's known for killing like tons and tons of people because he's Rambo.
It's what I think of it. Having never seen any, that's pretty much what I think of.
No, that's not what this is about. Rambo, like, he gets arrested at the start. He runs off after he sort of freaks out. And they chase him into the forest, but because he's Rambo and he knows what he's doing, he becomes this dangerous person in the forest because he can track, he can build traps, he can do all these things, and it's like this crisis where the police are trying to like capture him, and that's what the movie is, and it's really freaking good. The ending's fantastic, and it's not really till Rambo 2 or First Blood Part 2, whatever you want to call it, where it really kind of becomes what people think in pop culture of Rambo. And that movie's fun. That's a really fun action movie, the second one. But the first one's its own thing. That's very on its own.
Fair enough.
And it's excellent. So, whatever your preconceptions of what Rambo is, even if you don't like the idea of Rambo as what you think of him as pop culture, still try First Blood if you like the idea of just a good movie, because it's not that. It's its own thing.
Fair enough.
So, there you go. 17. What's your 16?
My 16. I mean, I told you earlier this would be appearing. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty great, right? What's not to love about this one?
Yep,
that is something definitely that you can't not love. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that double negative was right.
What was that?
I did a double negative, and then I questioned myself as to whether it was the right way to say it. I'm pretty sure it was. Someone will pick up on it if it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's one reason to love it already.
Oh, yeah,
Harrison Ford's another.
Harrison Ford, yeah. What's his face? The leading lady.
I know. I can picture her face.
Alan. Something Alan. Chris. Do you know what the worst part is? I think I mentioned her in the Starman section last part because she's in that movie. Karen Allen, yes. Damn it. That bugs me. We got it. No, it's an adventure movie. Great stunts, great humor, all these things.
Screw the Nazis.
And screw the Nazis. Always screw the Nazis.
Yeah.
The scum of the earth. My number 16. I hate that we are doing this list 2 days before we were going to record this, because my number 16 is Wings of Desire. So, going in, you've got a sense that I will like that movie.
I'll be honest, that doesn't surprise me.
Yes, this is Wim Wenders. This is a film about an angel who decides that he's kind of done being an angel and he wants to become a human being, and it's fantastic. And I don't really want to get into it because we're going to talk about it in a review.
I understand.
On the next
Based
episode.
on what I know of this movie, I expect to love it because it sounds like something I will very much enjoy. But we shall find out in a few days.
We shall find out. We shall find out. What's your 15?
My 15 is This Is Spinal Tap. Hey, screw you. You haven't seen it. You don't get to judge.
Why isn't this at 11? You had such a good joke opportunity.
I know. I thought about it, but then I'm like, no, because then it has to be above this, and I can't, in good conscience, have it above this.
It's so close. See if it was like 27, I wouldn't care.
I know. And you'll understand in a couple of places. I'm like, I can't put it above that. That would be completely unfaithful to the point of this list, and it's not worth the joke.
Okay, hold on. My DVD copy of Dracula's coming out.
Am I getting the DVD chucked at me? Yeah, go on then. No, this is a great mockumentary, about a band, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's a great comedy. If you like mockumentary comedies, this is a great one. I mean, I don't know why you haven't seen this. Go and watch it, all of you.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so
yeah. Fine. Well, don't watch it.
I have no reason, but I don't feel guilty because my number 15 is Near Dark.
Okay.
Which is a vampire film directed by Catherine Bigelow. It has a reunion of sorts from the cast of Aliens. You got Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, Jeanette Goldstein, Adrian Pasdar's the lead. It is a romantic vampire film, and I know that puts off a lot of people. You hear romantic vampire and you think Twilight, you think all these awful things. But there are good examples of when it works. And this is a vampire western, and there's the romance element has got a fantastic score by Tangerine Dream.
Oh my god, what a score.
Fantastic score. And we watched this again for streams. It's probably about 3 years ago now, but watching it again for streams 3 years ago, it was like, oh wow, this is even better than I remembered it. It was like all these great moments. Bill Paxton steals every scene he's in.
Yeah.
Wonderful, tragic, kind of dark moments. With the because even though the vampires are kind of evil and killing people, there's still this sense of tragedy to them when something, they finally meet their demise.
They're kind of just likable enough.
Yeah.
That you kind of understand some of them.
Finger licking good. I'm just saying, this good.
I'm pretty sure I was on that episode of Scream.
Yeah. Bill Paxton is phenomenal in that movie. So Near Dark. So vampire romances can be done well occasionally. Of course, another example is the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Just for that, I'm moving something up. Just to annoy you. It's going up a couple of places.
What? What are you doing?
Yeah. Screw you.
I don't even know what you're talking about. What a weird threat this is.
I know. I'm just like, just the higher these things are, the more it'll annoy you. So screw you.
Yeah, like Empire wasn't number one anyway. Like, come on.
You don't know that. We're not there yet. Save the surprise.
Empire wasn't number 3 until you pissed me off. Bullshit, it wasn't.
Empire is in exactly where it needs to be.
Exactly, it was on my number 38. What's your number 14?
My number 14's Body Double. You spoke about this one, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Yeah. Body Double is great. We spoke a lot. I think we spoke a lot about it on the last part, but the suspense is excellent. The direction is fantastic. There are some shots in particular where where they're being watched that are just incredible. It's a great movie.
Yeah. I just spoke about it, so I don't really have much to add to it.
I think I forgot at that point that it was later on my list, so I kind of just joined into the conversation.
Yeah, no, I had it at 27, so I mean, it was right at the end of the last half.
Yeah.
My number 14 is a movie that one day I will watch again. One day Connor will have the chance of watching it. But right now, it's somewhere down in a deep, dark abyss. Because there's no HD version. The Abyss. There's not even anamorphic DVD version. It's just
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, not so long. We're talking about how it's really rare for things not to have a Blu-ray edition. This goes the extra mile.
This is the example. This is the one that I bring out every time. This along with True Lies.
This not only doesn't have a Blu-ray edition, it doesn't even have a DVD edition worth watching.
No, it doesn't. The DVD is non-anamorphic, which means it's 4:3 with black bars at the top and bottom, meaning that the resolution is actually half of standard def.
Yeah.
So it's garbage. Actually, on modern screens, it looks like absolute garbage. Anyway, it's fantastic. I love The Abyss. It's a movie I saw. I bought the DVD back when it was acceptable. Well, yeah, at the time it wasn't great that it was non-anamorphic, but it was acceptable enough at the time. Watching it on a 28-inch CRT, it was okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't the only thing like this at the time.
No. They were definitely in the minority, but it wasn't the only thing like it.
Yeah.
But obviously I like James Cameron movies. I like science fiction. This was underwater science fiction, which I thought was a cool idea, which I hadn't really seen much of at the time. And it's this movie about first contact with aliens that may or may not be living in the ocean somewhere. But it's got a lot of great stuff. Obviously Cameron loves the water, and Titanic proves that. Avatar 2 is apparently going to be heavily underwater. But it deals with this sci-fi, a little bit of horror, underwater, good characters. Ed Harris is in there, Michael Bihn's in there, they're fantastic. And you have this fantastic climax. I will say you have to watch the special edition to get the whole story. It is baffling what they cut out of the theatrical cut. Watch the special edition; it's the one to watch.
One day.
But yeah, it's a great movie. It feels fairly unique because there's very few movies that are set on an underwater station like this that are of high quality. They tend to be kind of schlocky.
Yeah, that's fair.
But this is essentially Star Trek underwater. Not so much that they're down there for discovery, but just in the sense that it's the wonderment of discovering something new.
Yeah.
So, but you know what I mean when I say it's like a Star Trek plot when you see it.
Well, speaking of Star Trek,
I've got a feeling we're about to talk about whales.
Oh, we may indeed. You could not have teed that off any nicer, because my number 13 is Star Trek 4: Voyage Home. Oh,
not only was it Star Trek, it was the Star Trek closely related to water as possible.
It could not have gone any better.
Yes. I spoke about this a while ago, but yeah.
Yes, you did. No, this is great. It's full of comedy in ways that the other movies aren't, and it's comedy that's very natural and fits the context of what's happening. It doesn't feel there just for, let's throw in a joke. It all has this fantastic flow and tone to it, because you still have all the traditional Star Trek feeling of, okay, let's discover what is to them the unknown. But because it's the 80s, it's not unknown to us. So we're in on the joke for once, which is different to usual. So for the characters, it's this brand new situation, and it's all the culture shock. To us, it's funny, and it has all the nice messaging with the whales and whatnot as well. Yeah. Pretty great.
You're such a colourful metaphor. So my number 13 is actually probably a surprising pick to a lot of people. Actually, this is a film called Explorers, which is a Joe Dante movie. Now, I've mentioned before that I love Joe Dante. I've had a few Joe Dante movies on here.
Yeah, I think I remember you talking about this one before.
Yeah, this is a movie, it came out the same year as The Goonies, and it's very in the same vein in that it's about a group of kids, 3 kids in this case, who build a spaceship.
Yeah.
They build their own spaceship. And I know some people hate the ending because of when they actually get to an alien spaceship and they think it gets too wacky. I kind of still love that part of the movie. But I grew up watching this. For me, this was like The Goonies, right? Naturally. But it was the sci-fi version of The Goonies. It was The Goonies where they build a spaceship and go to space. What was not to love about that? On top of that, you've got a young Ethan Hawke as the main character. I mean, what's not to love? Dick Miller's in there because Dick Miller's in every Joe Dante movie. It's got a wonderful sense of adventure. It's this idea of being a kid in and this is something I can really relate to. At least I feel like I can. Is when you're a kid and you get that idea on like an afternoon where I think I can do this and pull it off, and most of the time you won't. But this is the movie about the idea being so extreme and then somehow them pulling it off. Like when I say like actual things, I mean like, oh, I think, oh, this afternoon I'm in the mood. You know what, for some reason, I really want to like move the room about, right? I want to have the bed over there so that I can see the TV from this angle, and I want to
ambitious, Pete.
Rearrange things. But no, you know what I mean? Like when you're a kid and you give yourself a little mission and you devote yourself to it and you're really excited about it. This is a movie where the mission is to build a spaceship and they goddamn pull it off, and it has this sense of adventure to it. And they're all about 12 years old or something like that. It's just it's delightful. Great score as well. Actually, it's not because it's a movie no one talks about. You feel like you probably wouldn't assume that it'd have like these other great elements, but it's actually got a really great score. So
I think you are still the only person who has ever mentioned this movie to me.
Explorers, seek it out, watch it. It's good.
Go explore.
It's good. Damn it. What's your 12?
My 12 is Airplane, because this is a delightful comedy, isn't it? It's the height of taking everything someone says and twisting it into something stupid and back at them. Because that's every joke in this movie. And I love that. Because that speaks to me as a person.
You're a dick.
Exactly.
I have to admit, I do prefer Naked Gun, but
I like Naked Gun a lot. It was lower down on my list, but Airplane just that little bit better for me.
That's fair. My number 12 is one that you've mentioned already. This is Thief. Michael Mann, stylish, slick. The story of the jewel thief who wants to get married and have kids and get out of the life, but the asshole who employed him just pulls him back in. And it's this the story of someone who wants to become normal but realizes that he can't become normal without going down the deep end first.
Who cares, because it's stylish as shit.
No, I actually think the story's really good.
No, the story is alright.
It handles its themes very well. And I love the ending, because the ending kind of pays off everything that the film set up until that point. I really like that part of it. Anyway, we did review this. You can go watch a full review of us talking about this. But really, really good. And again, who can? James can. So, what's your number 11?
So my 11 is one that you mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure, and that's The Breakfast Club.
Oh yes, ages ago, back at like 40 something.
Yeah, last video. In completely the wrong place. Because this movie's fantastic. It's such a smart teenage comedy, in that everyone is exactly how they should be. In terms of what they're representing. They all sound very realistic in terms of that. The witty if they're supposed to be witty. They're just they're stupid if they're supposed to be, but not heightened to ridiculous degrees either. They're all a very realistic range of that spectrum, and all the characters play off each other fantastically, and it's just fantastic and delightful.
Also, the principal from this film would later quit his job and go on to be a police officer in Los Angeles.
Go on.
He's in Die Hard.
I know, but I'm just waiting for you to get on with it.
I'll just say he's in Die Hard.
Unless Die Hard is your next movie, not relevant.
It's not my next movie, but number 11 for me is one that you've mentioned, and that is Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is the first Indiana Jones film. Like I say, I saw this kind of late for what most people would normally see this in the lifespan. It's very good. It is a fun adventure, and I think it was a surprising film to me, because it's not necessarily the type of movie that I love usually. It's just good enough that I do.
Yeah, I get that.
Right, like, it's not so much that I'm against like a pulpy adventure movie, but typically when I think of that, I typically think of weaker movies, where this, like, you've got the charisma of Ford, you've got the chemistry with Alan, you've got the great music, the great action, the stunts, the car chase at one point, you've got all these things. It's just a delightful experience.
And it's nice to get to say screw the Nazis when it's not a war movie.
That's true. Yeah, screw the Nazis. The villain's really good as well. The little Nazi, the really creepy one.
Yeah, yeah, he is.
He's good. The coat hanger that you think he's like making this torture weapon, and it turns out to be a coat hanger. That's a good scene.
Yeah, it is. I want to mention that because I'm not big on war movies, and that's typically 90%, if not more, of where Nazis are the villains.
Yeah, this is just set while they're in power in Germany, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember the exact year it's set in, actually, now I'm thinking about it. But I think it's before World War II.
I want to say like 39.
Which is the year World War II started.
Yeah, but maybe it's
just before.
Yeah.
All right. What's your number 10? Oh, we're in top 10 now.
We're in top 10.
What's your 10?
Yeah, top 10. Kicking it off. Return of the Jedi.
You moved this up, you prick.
Only by one space, actually. I swapped it with Breakfast Club. I changed my mind. I to be honest, I re-alter this list constantly as we go. Because I did this a week ago, and I'm like, do you know what? Kind of want to shift things around a little bit, and then I was like, just swapped it with Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love this movie, all of it, even the bloody Ewoks. Even the Ewoks. Yeah, you would. No, this is great. It has all the emotional climax of the trilogy. Everything that's up on the ship with Luke Vader and the Emperor is just incredible. It's some of the best writing, thematic writing that's in the trilogy there for me. It has all the emotion there, and it sticks the landing for what is obviously, in my opinion, a fantastic trilogy. Most people would agree, to be fair, but it sticks the landing is the point.
I feel like you're really overdoing it because you're expecting me to be a dick in a second and put some contrary points.
Go on.
I like it. It's a good movie. I actually agree with the emotional climaxing that you're talking about. The Vader and Luke stuff at the end, really good. Just a lot of the stuff on the planet with the Ewoks. And it's not even the Ewoks themselves specifically. It's just that general part of the plot. Fair
enough. I realise the speeder bike chase I think is really thrilling.
Just a bit weaker than the other two to me. But there's things to like. It's a solid conclusion to the trilogy. It works.
I happen to agree that it's my least favourite of the three. But I mean, it's not. It's small margins.
Oh yeah, so I wonder where Empire's going to appear.
Yeah, there's only a maximum of 8 films that can appear between them, right? So I mean, small margin.
All right, well you can be quiet now because the real top 10's about to start. Number 10 of the top movies of the 80s.
Of your top movies of the 80s. This is not definitive because mine's obviously objectively the right one.
Number 10, Ghostbusters. And that's it. I don't have to say it. It's Ghostbusters. No, it's incredibly witty. It's got a fantastic cast from top to bottom, from Murray to Weaver to Aykroyd to Ramos. It's fantastic top to bottom, incredibly witty, inventive, fun effects, fun music. That theme song, delightful.
Yeah. Can't argue with that.
Obviously it's full of nostalgia, but it's one of those things where the jokes have gotten better as I've gotten older because there's a lot of adult humor in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know when the gap happened. Like, the gap between when I watched it when I was too young to get all the jokes to when I was old enough to get them all. I assume there was a reasonable gap where when I watched it again, it was kind of like obviously I remember liking it, but
it was like a fresh experience.
It was a eureka moment. I was like, this was actually incredibly witty. I just liked it as a kid because it was fun shooting the ghosts with the beams.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of movies that fall into that. Like one of those things like Toy Story always springs to mind for me. As you watch that as a kid, it's just it's Toy Story, and then when you come back and watch it as now, there's a lot of actual witty humor in there that only the adults are getting.
Yeah.
Because some studios appreciate that the parents have to go and take the kids to the movies and they don't want them sat there completely bored.
Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call?
Yeah, good movie. I'm in my list though.
Yeah, you have the definitive top list when Ghostbusters isn't even there. What's your number 9?
Definitive top 10 is what I said. My number 9 is one that you mentioned not too long ago, Near Dark. Everything about it's fantastic. Honestly, what catapults it up like from maybe 12 or 13 into 9 is the score. That is that good. It kind of pushes it up that extra bit. But all the characters are great. The romance, the Western elements, all of it is fantastic. And it's firing on all cylinders, this movie.
Yep, already talked about it. So
Yep.
my number 9 is The Shining.
My number 8.
That was once.
It always does. And do you know what? We were so close to the end, I thought we were going to get away with it.
Damn it. All right, so yeah, Shining, Stanley Kubrick. I mean, like, obviously King doesn't like it because it's different from his book, and
which, as from his perspective, I can understand that, right? But also, objectively, it's fantastic.
It's a phenomenal movie. It's one of those things where like he came in and made an almost perfect horror movie, and it makes me like, why didn't he make more horror movies? Damn it! He's this good at it. Why didn't he do more? But it's eternally creepy. Jack Nicholson's fantastic. The hotel itself is a character.
Yeah, that was whoever was the location guy found this place. Man, deserved a pay rise.
Yeah, fantastic camera work. You got those shots following Danny on the tricycle or whatever it was as he's going around the halls, and you're just following. And even the sound design, where you hear the wheels going on the carpet and it's kind of dull, and then it hits the wooden floor again, and it's like really loud, and it keeps going on. It's almost like a beat. It goes between them. Yeah. Really, really smart design. Even the hexagons design or whatever it was in the carpets and stuff, everything felt very just kind of like too perfectly symmetrical, and it made you kind of mad. It made you just feel kind of weird.
And it falls in line with you've got the twins there, and it's this idea it's too perfect that hang on, why is there two of them?
Yeah, so Shining's phenomenal. So
it is.
That was my number 9. It was your number 8.
Yeah, so your number 8.
My number 8 is The Thing. John Carpenter, set in the Arctic. It's alien falls down. It's technically a remake, although it's more just it's an adaptation of the same story. But the original was so far removed that it doesn't even feel like a remake. It just feels like this is an actual adaptation of the story. Yeah. Fantastic practical effects. It is a movie about paranoia. It's a movie with another great score. It's a movie. It's a bottle movie. It's set in this one little installation, this little base.
Yeah, and when you have a bottle movie like this, the acting needs to be, really great to carry it. And it is. It's above and beyond by everyone involved.
And it's a bottle movie not only just in the sense that they're all around this little base and building. They're trapped there by the snow. The weather's got them completely cut off from the world. They can't contact anyone. They're isolated. It is the perfect atmosphere for then what follows, where all they have is each other, and then they can't trust each other. And it deteriorates. The group deteriorates as the movie goes on.
And it has a fantastic ending in that, it's like, well, what really happened? You can debate it for hours. I mean, when we did our review of this, we did debate it quite a bit as to how we personally felt about the ending. And I think we came down feeling differently, if I recall.
Boom, boom. Boom, boom. That was my rendition of music. I seem to be doing that every so often here, but
you do, yeah. I don't like this. Let's stop this. Let's not make it a thing.
Like, I'm not very good at it, but I do hum a lot of music, just all the time.
Yeah, you do.
You know this very well. Every time we're not recording, I'm just sitting here humming to myself.
Literally, like the second we stop, he'll be going off on one.
And sometimes I'll hum music from movies I don't even like. Like sometimes that hams.
And do you know what the worst part is? There was a point that this was a while ago now, but is it called Kids? The song
do
yeah. All the goddamn time you did that song, and I hate. I used to think that song was all right, and now I hate it because of how much you did that. Hating that.
All right. That was my number 8. The Thing is phenomenal, fantastic. What was your number 7?
My number 7. Ooh, another movie that we have done a review of. This is My Neighbor Totoro.
Ah, yes.
This is one that we did a review on, and I really liked it. And then it stuck with me, after we did, because we typically record our reviews pretty quickly after watching, usually within a couple of hours, maybe a day tops. So it doesn't have time to really, sit with you before we discuss them. It's usually a fairly fresh reaction, especially if it's a film we've not seen before. But then, this really sat with me over a few weeks, and it got to a point where I realized this movie has no plot. There's no plot to this movie. It's just these two characters, and this just there's this day, right, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's as engrossing as it is, the fact that it has character arcs in there, and there is no tangible plot at all, it's kind of fantastic. And the animation's gorgeous. It's dealing with all these serious themes about coping with the potential of death or illness, families. But it's fantastic. I loved it.
All right. And so I've got a very similar film at my number 7, RoboCop. So Paul Verhoeven directed. Talk about fantastic music in some of these movies. This has got such a bombastic, full of brass score. I love the score to RoboCop.
I'll give you that one.
Is this? We talk about movies that got better as we got older. This is something that I shouldn't have watched as a kid, but I did. I grew up with RoboCop because I think a lot of parents just assume, oh, it's a robot cop, it's for kids. It's not. This movie's full of violence, drugs, hookers, everything. Like it's got all of it. And
do you know what I think was misleading for a lot of parents?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there was a cartoon.
Yeah, probably.
And they think, well, there's a cartoon. Of course, it's probably fine.
So here's the thing. RoboCop, as a kid, it was like, it's violent and there's a robot cop. This is great. As an adult, this film is actually a fantastic satire. It is so well done. It's so well written. It's a movie about individualism and like you losing yourself in the faceless kind of corporate world. That's what the movie's about. It's about society taking your personality away and making you just one of them, part of the machine, as it were.
Yeah.
And it's about resisting that and hopefully coming out with still intact as a human being. That's what this movie's about, and it is phenomenal. So it's a great action movie, it's a great sci-fi movie, but it's a great sci-fi movie because it's a great satire and because it has something to say.
Yeah, a lot of good sci-fi, is.
Yeah. Arguably all good sci-fi is.
Probably. Yeah, there's probably a couple of examples
where it's good but doesn't have a message. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm not willing to say all.
Yes, but no, RoboCop is actually a fantastic movie. It's one that I remembered liking, but I assumed it was it wasn't one of my favorites or one of the best movies ever or anything like that. But then I watched it again, maybe, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, whenever it was, and it was like, no, this is actually really good. This is really smart. Like this is like next level stuff. It's fantastic. RoboCop's great. Seriously. It's good.
Fair enough.
What's your number 6?
Also a movie probably shouldn't have been watching as a kid, but clearly I did.
Mm-hmm.
The Terminator.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's better than the second one. Screw what anyone else says. I know every time we mention this, that comes up, and I feel like I always get some snide comment from someone on Twitter or something going, the second one's better. No, it's not. The second one's got better action, but it's not a better movie. No, the first one has so much more atmosphere. It's got out in that dirty, awful alleyway, and then he appears, and it's just like that's atmosphere.
It's a grimy city.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was talking about how Predator's kind of like part of why I ended up liking horror, because I wasn't watching horror movies as a kid. I was watching stuff like this, but I think Terminator's the other one where I think Terminator's the reason why I love things like Halloween so much.
Yeah, it is a proto slasher movie.
Yeah,
because Terminator, he kind of is a slasher in many regards, in that he did this unstoppable monster that just tracks them down and kills them. It is very much your setup for 90% of slasher movies.
Yeah. My number 6, Die Hard. I love a bottle movie, right? So you have John McClane. He's just a regular cop. He's in the high rise. I mean, me and Matt just talked about Die Hard. We reviewed it on Overload for Christmas, and one of the things that really stuck out to me on that viewing, watching it again and try to think about it a bit more critically, because it's, I'm going to talk about it. I want to have something to say that's not just, action good, Bruce Willis, charismatic, because there's more to it than that. I love how you get to know the building. I love all that stuff. But what really stuck out in that viewing was that the movie does actually have a heart to it. There's a story at the center of it, which is about every character in that movie who seems to enjoy or likes the idea of like the action, right? Every character who likes the thrill of what they're doing are all idiots and ultimately meet a bad end. Whereas John McClane and Al, the character, and to a point, Hans Gruber as well, funnily enough, they're the ones who are smarter than everyone else, because they're the ones who treat it seriously, and they're the ones who try to think about the situations and outwit things. And ultimately, the reason why John McClane wins when all the cops outside and everything else doesn't is because he is down to earth, because he thinks things through seriously. Because I think it's funny that people who joke about people who like Die Hard too much are like, oh, you like Die Hard, you say it's your favorite Christmas film, like, you're just immature and you like action movies. The point of Die Hard is that the people who think like that are the ones who are going to lose. And John McClane wins because he doesn't think like that. He takes it seriously and understands the weight of what's happening. And Hans Gruber only loses because he finally lets that go at the very end. He lets his ego get the better of him for a second, and that's why John McClane wins. So, Die Hard. It's phenomenal. What's your number 5?
My number 5 could not be more different.
Die Hard 2.
No, it's not. It's 16 Candles, which I kind of wish I could have had this at 16, but it's far too good for that.
I doubt it, but go on.
Screw you. I take serious offense at that. Have you even seen this movie?
No.
What? I
have no idea what it's about.
This is probably the best directed John Hughes movie for me.
The only thing I know about this movie, and this is just because of the title, I assume someone's turning 16.
Yes.
That's all I've got.
Molly Ringwald is turning 16, her character. And the idea is that all of her family forgot. And she has a really shitty day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she has to go to school and all this shit. She just has a really shit day throughout.
So this is a couple of years after her and her friends beat Pennywise.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, you've just got all these kind. Again, it's a lot of awful people, and her just going through a really shitty day, and the comedy that comes out of that, and it's fantastic. It's really really smartly written. A lot of wit in there.
I don't like it. I've just not seen it.
Yeah. No, I do think you'd like this. I mean, you probably wouldn't rate it quite as highly as I do, because I'm a sucker for this sort of thing.
Yeah, number 5, but no Ghostbusters out of 50 movies. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
it was on the short list. It was probably about 55.
Aye. So was Return of the Jedi. No, it wasn't. I'm kidding. That wasn't even on the short list.
Yes, it was. Screw you.
So was it? I knew I wasn't getting on.
Go and do your number 5, you prick.
The Inner Space, that was on the short list but didn't make it. American Wolf in London on the short list but didn't make it.
You're glancing at the ones that you cut now, aren't you? Yeah.
Fatal Attraction was on the short list but didn't make it. There's movies there. Anyway, my number 5. Back to the Future. Just
on the shortlist, but didn't make it.
Yeah. I knew that, because you have an awful opinion when it comes to this movie.
I don't have an awful opinion. It's a good movie. I just don't love it.
Back to the Future is a movie that's, and this is going to be really funny in context here, given that Connor's a bit more meh on it, but Back to the Future to me is the movie when someone tells me they don't like it, I know there's something wrong with them as a human being. Because Back to the Future is flawless. I'm saying this. It is a flawless film. I don't know what you can criticize in this movie.
I just want to point out that this means all 4 movies above this must also be flawless.
No, that doesn't. This is purely on a like, I can understand why someone doesn't like these 4 above this. Back to the Future has an appeal for everyone. It is a perfect movie in the sense that it is delightful characters. It is a great plot. The script always moves forward. Everything just clicks together. It's funny. It's heartwarming. It's adventurous. It's got the ticking time bomb element. It's got everything. It is a perfect movie script. It is insane how tight it is.
Yeah.
It's so tight.
Fine.
No one edit that out of context and use it, please. It's such a tight film. It's so good. And Marty's great. Doc is great. You know, so many classic scenes. And we talk about fantastic scores a lot. Alan Silvestri's score for this is absolutely phenomenal. And
I don't rate it.
You making your faces at me? No. This is one of the most iconic scores in film history. I'm putting my foot down on this. That higher education that you got in music has been wasted because you've got the wrong opinion on this. It was a sham. The whole thing was a sham because you've got the wrong opinion on Back to the Future. So
fine score, but yeah, I don't think it's that special.
Back to the Future's a 10. It's a goddamn 10. What is your number 4, you hack?
I'm not a hack. It was a 7, and that's fine. And a 7's pretty good. It was good enough to get it on the short list for this list, but not enough to make the cut.
That's a shirt. Back to the Future 7 out of 10. Dash Connor Ryan.
I stand by it. My number 4 we actually already spoke about not so long ago. It's The Thing. We praised it a lot then.
Yes.
So yeah. The Thing. It's great.
It's
I love
good.
it. Yeah.
I'll talk again, I suppose. Then.
I'm just still annoyed at you.
Number 3.
Thinking Back to the Future's flawless.
Is The Terminator. It's a cyborg from the future has come back in time to kill the mother of the future leader of the Resistance. And like I said earlier, it is an unstoppable killing machine. It is as much of a horror film as it is a science fiction film.
Mm.
It is super tense. It's got tons of atmosphere. It's got heart to it. It's got layers. Like, this is the sort of plot. I remember, watching the documentaries and stuff about it. That was a really bad hiccup.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really tried to hold that one in, and it just.
But I remember them saying that when it got released, like the studio Orion assumed that it was going to be this schlocky little sci-fi thing that made a little bit of money on first weekend, and that was it. They were thinking it was another B movie that no one cared about.
I can see why.
Yeah, if you tell someone the concept, you can sort of hear why. But you watch it, it's got a very tight script. It's got a great lineup of cast. It's very well directed. It's full of iconic moments. The Terminator rising from the fire, the police shootouts in the station, like all these iconic scenes. It invented "I'll Be Back." That was this movie. Like, it has all these things, but then you've got just the actual sci-fi side of it. You've got the father from the future. You've got these time loop elements. You've got like cyborgs taking over the planet. You've got all these things. It's everything that made me love science fiction as a kid. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, the Terminator, and also I'll say this: the best main theme any movie's ever had.
Oh, that's a bold. Now, I think you're closer with this statement than you were with the Back to the Future statement.
I'll tell you, at least I'll say this. Obviously, that was a very subjective thing to say, but I will say this, which is just fact for me. The main theme of this music is the theme that made me care about movie music. That made me pay attention. It's the first track I ever made a point of acquiring and listening to my heart's content.
Fair enough.
The Terminator. What's your number 2?
Well, hang on, we've got number 3 first.
Oh, I skipped one. I guess I'm swapping those 2. Terminator was number 4 then, alright.
No, it's fine. So we'll backtrack slightly.
Okay, we'll swap that right. Okay, what was your number 3?
My number 3 is Aliens. Okay. And I suspect it's maybe appearing on yours momentarily, so I'm actually going to wait and we'll just talk about it properly, because I'm that confident.
Okay. All right. Well,
so what's your number 4?
to go back to number 4, because my eye jumped up a slot. Very different film. This is one that I did not grow up with. This is something that I saw in my earlier adult life. Cinema Paradiso. This is a phenomenal film. I recommend the director's cut. Although the theatrical cut I still think is pretty solid, but the director's cut is the one I recommend. It is a film about a young boy who befriends the projectionist at this. It's set in the past. It's set in like the, I don't know, 30s, something like that. And it's the early days of film where the film rules are really basic, and he's they're dangerous as a fire at one point because this was before they treated film strips so they weren't flammable anymore. It's doing all these things, and it's this touching story of this friendship and how this is a coming of age story for the young boy, and gives the older man purpose. And it leads to this wonderful, later in the film where we see what becomes of him as a man, and what he does with his life, and how it harkens back to everything he learned in his childhood. And I'm making these bold claims, but I actually think the final minute of this movie, like the conclusion right before the credits roll, might be one of the most satisfying final minutes of a film I've ever seen.
Okay.
I literally had a tear of joy run down my face at the final moment of this film. It was that touching, and the best part of the whole thing is that it's kind of about cinema. It's about the love of cinema and how that bonds people. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful film that I highly recommend. So, Cinema Paradiso. And then number 3 is The Terminator. Just to...
Sure, there was you said number 3, but because I'd just done number 4, I didn't really clock.
So I said the right number, I just skipped ahead one,
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Which does mean we're on to your number 2.
Number 2, yeah. So when we were talking about 16 Candles, I said that was the best movie directed by John Hughes. Okay. My number 2 is the best movie written by John Hughes. It's Pretty in Pink. So still very much a John Hughes movie. In it's all in the script, right? It's directed by someone else, but it doesn't matter. It's still a John Hughes movie in everything that it's doing. This is another one with Molly Ringwald, and it's basically she's this poor girl, there's the crush at school, and then this new rich guy comes in, and it's about them forming this relationship and whether or not that the two of them can be compatible, I guess. But it's very funny. It is funny throughout. It is probably for me it's the funniest of John Hughes films, but it's got it's got the heart there to it as well to back it up. It's really tightly scripted. I love this movie. It's fantastic.
I didn't see that coming.
No, you didn't.
I didn't see that coming.
Nah, no one saw this one coming.
Well, okay. What a weird top 10 you've got.
I know. It's all over the place. But I really love this movie.
All right, okay. My number 2 is from the same director as Wings of Desire, Wim Wenders.
Okay.
It's a film called Paris, Texas, which is a film that I don't hear enough people talking about, and anyone who I have forced to watch this has loved it. Right?
We'll do it at some point because I keep meaning to watch it and just never find the time.
This will be an influx. Don't you worry. It'll be an influx at some point. This is a film starring Harry Dean Stanton, the late great.
He was also in Pretty in Pink, by the way.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
He is this man he's kind of drifting just through the country, and his brother finds him, who's I forget his name, but he was in Quantum Leap. I know him from Battlestar Galactica though. That'll help some people decipher who it is. There's a crossover between those two. He finds him and kind of like tries to like help him, brings him back home to him with his family, and tries to find out, okay, why did you leave? Why were you wandering? Why have you been kind of silent and out of it? What's going on? Also, your wife's missing, and don't you want to reconcile with your son because he's got a young son who's 8 or something like that. And it's kind of about him trying to reconnect with his son. And then we slowly discover why he was out there doing what he was doing, what's happened, what will build up to that. And I talked about how Cinema Paradiso, the ending's like such a big thing. What? I didn't go out.
Just unprofessional. Okay. Carry on.
They cut out. It was fine. I talk about how the ending of that was like, you know, touching and like one of my most satisfying endings ever. The final, not just minute of this movie, the final 20 minutes of this movie, of Paris, Texas, I don't even know the words to describe it. It's like, I don't think I've ever seen a movie where it's great throughout. It's a really well done drama throughout. It's really, really solid. And then the final 20 minutes is just this one long scene that takes it. And not only just because this scene's so good that it elevates the whole movie, because it's not like the rest of it needed elevating per se, but what the meaning that this adds to the rest of the film, where you realize, where he kind of finally, you know, talks about why he is the way he is, and what's built up to this point, and what the whole movie's about. And I don't want to spoil it, because it is freaking fantastic. It is this great performance. It's just two actors having a conversation as the final 20 minutes. And the entire thing is heart-wrenching. It is a gut punch. It is heartwarming in places. It is emotional. This movie was deeply touching to me in the final 20 minutes. It is a movie about someone, not even like just dealing with what they've realized they are, right? Just realizing they are this kind of person, and how do they react to that now they know that. That is what this movie is. And it's one of those movies where you realize about halfway through why it's called Paris, Texas, because it's not really clear for a while until something is brought up and you kind of, oh, wait a minute. And it's kind of all about that and what that represents. And it's I can't wait to watch this again for Influx at some point. I cannot wait to talk about this. And
is it bad? There is a small part of me that wants to not like it, just to the sake of having that debate with you.
I don't think there's a chance of it.
Bold statement.
I have never been more convinced that I am right in this opinion and that you will see the light than I am with this movie. Paris, Texas is it's one of those movies where I got it because it was a Criterion, right? I was like, oh, this looks interesting.
Yeah, one of them.
Bought the Criterion, and it blew me away. Like I was like, that's a 10 out of 10. Like usually I have to like think about it a bit before I give it a 10. This was a 10. As soon as the credits rolled, it was a goddamn 10. And I've never changed my opinion about that. Never.
Fair enough.
One of my favourite films of all time. Phenomenal. Which does lead us to your number one.
Yeah, which you have unceremoniously ruined multiple times.
What are you talking about?
What could it be, Pete? What notable thing is missing on my list that you may or may not have said, oh, that's number one, like 5 times in these videos?
Ghostbusters.
It's sure as shit not Back to the Future, I can tell you that.
Oh, piss it off.
No, it's Empire Strikes Back. Surprising no one, because it's me, and I'm a walking caricature, apparently. I mean, this is it's almost unfair to everything else on this list, because it's not just my number one of the 80s, it's just my favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it was always going to be number one when we did this. There was just no getting around that. I think I made up for it by having a very shocking number two.
Well, I didn't have a shocking number two, but I think my number two is not one that is like, you know, it's not Terminator and Die Hard and Back to the Future.
No, it's not. I wasn't accusing you of having that. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's Empire. It's a perfect movie for me. Every time I watch this, I find something else that I'm like, that's interesting, that's new, that I've never seen before, that, you know, something thematic, that, you know, just a shot that I'll be like, that I'd never considered in a certain way before. Like one of the last times I watched it, there was something in the lighting in one of the scenes that was it was very specific. It was when Luke's flying off in his ship away from Dagobah, and the lighting is over Yoda and Obi-Wan having that conversation of, no, there's another, and the lighting's doing something really interesting thematically, and I was like, oh man, I've never noticed that. But I've seen this movie literally over like more than 100 times comfortably, because this is one that I watched on repeat as a kid. Don't get me wrong, and I never seen that before, and then it just that viewing, it's like, that clicked, and it was just like, okay, that was interesting, and every time I watch it, I get something new out of it. And Pete's there going, how are you getting more stuff out of that movie?
Hey, it's a solid film. It's a solid number 38. So
yeah. F you.
What's funny about this though is that you could have guessed that that was going to be his number one because it was obviously the number one on our top 50 sci-fi movie list that we did probably about a year ago. Actually, we did that. I think that was the one we did last December, or was that the one we did in like March? Either way,
I don't remember.
Either way, one of those was the top 50 sci-fi, and your number one in that was Empire. So it makes sense that if we do a movie about the 80s, that unless there was another genre film that might have.
Do you know what is notable? Is that there are a handful of sci-fi films on this list that would have been in the 80s in the top sci-fi list. They're not necessarily in the same order as they were then.
Oh sure, yeah, time because your thought process changes and
yeah. So don't go back and go, oh, but you had this higher than that last time.
Yeah, let's evolve. Because someday we'll probably repeat some of the same lists when we've seen more movies and we've had more time to think about it. And,
and it's even like just depends on how I'm feeling when I make the list, because I made this from scratch and it's like yeah, that's what I'm feeling today.
Yeah, but the reason why I bring that up is because my number one film was also my number one film in the top 50 sci-fi list.
Yeah, which is why I generously left it for you.
Yeah. So this is Flash Gordon. This is Aliens. This is goddamn Aliens. It is.
I really hope you made that same joke in the sci-fi list.
I definitely didn't make a Flash Gordon joke. I mean, I made a joke about something else, but I definitely didn't make a Flash Gordon joke.
You should have gone back and checked what you did do.
I just try to think of a sci-fi movie from the 80s that wasn't on my list as quickly as possible, and that's what popped out in my head.
Fair enough.
But hey, so Aliens is the best sequel ever made. I'm saying it.
He says after I just said Empire was above Aliens.
Aliens is the best sequel ever made. I'm putting my foot down. But here's the thing. I've talked about how Terminator and other things. What was the other one I was talking about? What was the other one that I said kind of led to my horror love? I can't remember now.
Wasn't the Thing?
No, because that's actually a horror movie. It was something else that had. It doesn't matter. But I talked about how some of the films so far, and Terminator was the one that was springing to mind, that kind of like formed some of my taste, or at the very least were the first examples where I realized I liked a certain thing, right?
Yeah.
Aliens, in many ways, kind of links into my favorite type of video game. In that, it's a film about a group of people coming to this base that was a sort of confined area with like a group of people staying there, and something horrific happened. There was lab experiments. The characters come in and just try and piece together what happened. They see like clues. They see like the lab experiments. They get documents. Something happened, and then once the aliens show up, this idea of okay, we only have so much ammo. We have like a safe area that we've locked off for a little while. We've got a safe room. Like all of these things are exactly what I like about Resident Evil, the video games.
Yeah,
and it's something that I realized when I was watching it again at some point a few years ago. I was like, oh, this has got a lot of these elements that I like.
Yeah.
And I like that in movies too, obviously. But I was thinking about that. But that's just part of what I love about this so much. It's not just that it's more of an action movie than the first one, and that it's got like a whole team against a lot of aliens. It's natural escalation. It's not just the heart of Ripley and Newt and the mother-daughter thing. It's this idea of this thing happened here, and we have to go in the aftermath. And we have a faint idea of what may have happened because we've seen the first movie, but this is larger in scale. There's more people. There's more things going on. So, I love Aliens.
As a sequel, I'm not willing to say it's the best sequel ever made, clearly, because that belongs to Empire. But it's probably the second best sequel ever made. I'll give you that. But what I love about it as a sequel is that it doesn't try and one up the original. Not really. You could argue, well, there's more, so it does, but that's not the evolution, is it? It's not going, well, let's just do the same thing but more. It's no, flip it completely on its head, throw it into a different genre entirely, do it through an entirely different lens, and do something else with that idea.
Yeah, and it naturally adds more to the mythology as well. The Alien Queen, of course, all these extra elements. The idea of taking the android was crazy in the first one. Let's have an android who turns out to be a good character in the second one. Let's play with it. Let's flip it and do something different, but play with the idea that Ripley doesn't trust them because of the experience in the first film.
Yeah,
it does so many smart things, and then on top of that, the effects hold up pretty well. The ships look great, the weapons, the vehicles. the power loader, the alien queen fight, all that stuff really holds up.
Yeah. I would say I don't like the alien designs quite as much as the original.
Yeah, they've got those ridges in some of their heads as opposed to no, I
the sleekness of the original is better for me, but I mean it's still pretty good.
Yeah, and I'll give Cameron a little bit of shit here that he did tinker slightly for the Blu-ray release. And it's not a tinker like George Lucas where he was like adding and taking away stuff constantly. It was just a mistake that he noticed that he fixed.
Oh, finally.
It's at the end of the film when Bishop's cut in half and he like grabs Newt as she's sliding down the floor. And if you go back and watch the DVDs or any of the old versions, you can actually see like Lance Henriksen's real body kind of poking through the floor a little bit. And it's one of those things where I'd never noticed it, and it was on the commentary for the anthology or the quadrilogy DVD box set where he pointed it out in the commentary and said, I watched this film probably a dozen times in editing, through various cuts, and it wasn't until at the 14th, 15th time that I noticed that body peeking out the floor. But now every time I watch it, I see it.
Yeah,
right?
And then you did.
And then I did too. But so when you watch the Blu-ray, he's actually fixed it. He's digitally taken away the body. And it's one of those things where I don't really care. It's fine because it's just a mistake.
Yeah.
That was fixed.
I never saw it on the DVD because I saw it on Blu-ray. I saw it in the cinema. Was my first experience watching it. Actually.
I assume that was the Blu-ray cut though. Or
I think the version. I assume it would have been. Yeah. Due to when I watched it, I can't see any other reason why it would have been. That said, I mean, it might not have been for some bizarre reason.
It probably was.
Because this thing.
It was a 4K remaster. I assume that's the one that went around theaters.
I would have assumed so. Yeah.
The anniversary showings and whatnot. But it's phenomenal. Aliens is fantastic.
It is. Yeah, it's a fantastic number 3.
It's a number 1. But notably, you had my number 1 at number 3. I had your number 1 at 38.
Yeah, if you average them out, sure. But that's not how this works. I started this by saying my top 10 is the definitive top 10 for all top 10s.
Yeah, if we do our thing, like sometimes we do things in the group with like a point system. And, I give Alien 10 points because it's number 1. And you give Empire 10 points because it's number 1. But then you give Aliens 8 points at number 3. And I give Empire like a point for being at 38. Aliens wins.
By that metric. But that is not the metric that counts here today.
Aliens wins. That's all you need to know.
Empire's still better though. Doesn't matter what Pete says. Pete's wrong. Everyone knows that. He's just biased.
That has been our top 50 movies of the 1980s. Of course, let us know what your top 50 of the 80s are in the comments. We love to see it. You can do that in the comments or whatever. As for stuff coming up, what is the next countdown? Naturally, there'll be a 70s one, but I don't think that'll be next. Next time we come to a countdown, we'll do something else.
Yeah, we don't like just doing decades.
Yeah, back to back. We've been kind of alternating between a genre and a decade. So we'll see. We don't know what the next one's going to be. By all means, give us suggestions. But we actually, it's nice to see like ideas and stuff. And sometimes we'll be like, no, we can never do that. But sometimes like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, the next thing of this style though will not be the big countdown like this. It will be our top 10s of 2018. Yeah,
that'll be coming late February. You'll be getting that.
Yes, awards time.
So you can look forward to that. Obviously, you can support the show by liking, subscribing, and all the other stuff. But if you want to support us financially, you can go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can support us for as little as $1 per month. You get these influxes a week early. You get some other stuff extra. You get an exclusive. Every other month you get a 121 extra, which is a movie discussion show, kind of like this, but on a topic rather than a movie itself. That alternates with the TV version, which is almost cancelled extra. So you get either one of those every month at the $1 tier. But there's also voting rates at the $5 tier and other stuff. Or if you want merchandise, which is a one-time way to support us, you can go and buy a shirt or a hoodie or whatever. There'll be a link in the description to your relevant stores. There's a UK store and a US store. You can pick whatever one suits you better.
Yeah.
And yeah. That's I think that's everything. But yeah, thank you very much.
Back to normal movies soon.
Back to normal movies, like we say. We kind of said what it was, but we're doing Wings of Desire next, which is not a spoiler because that was the winner of the Patreon vote. So it makes sense that we're doing that soon because it has to be done. It's mandated by our very patrons.
And then
themselves.
All of next month. Or most of next month will be catch up for 2018 movies.
Catch up 2018 movies, and then March has got a theme. It's going to be Batman month because it's both the 1000th issue of Detective Comics and Batman's 80th birthday. So it's a bit of a big milestone. So we're doing a bunch of Batman movies in March. There'll be extras. There'll be more than one a week because there's more than 4 Batman movies. So you'll be getting at least 7, maybe 8, and you'll also get the Patreon pick that month, obviously, as well. But mainly Batman movies.
And then probably back to normal in April.
Yes, probably back to normal in April.
Unless we get another crazy idea between now and then.
I doubt it. We probably should go back to just some general movies. So we've got,
we should.
Time to do like some other things we've been wanting to do. But that is us. That has been our top 50 movies of the 1980s. So yeah, let us know what your picks are in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys, and we will see you next time.